What's up, guys? VenomousStare here, bringing you some more ZVT. Today we have two American players. Vibe is the Zerg, and RuFF is the Terran. They're playing on Dusk Towers, which is a very normal macro map, so I'm not really going to talk about the map very much because it's kind of been beat to death. This map was in the pool last season, and it's nothing special. I will kick it up to ×2 to get things moving. I'm going to start talking about RuFF because he's the most interesting of the two players. So RuFF, he does a lot of very weird builds. Jesse Cox is the guy's name. He's an American Terran who's been around since the very beginning of the game. He's very aggressive. He was known for his one base all-ins early on in the game. And now he does a lot of Banshee base play, one base aggression, two base aggression. He does a lot of abnormal things like PFs at golds, just stuff you wouldn't expect. He's one of those guys who's really entertaining to watch because he will just do zany things completely off the wall. Going Tech Lab after making 2 Marines. Now the 2 Marines are to check for overlords and deny scouting. I'd venture to guess and say that RuFF did this because he's going to be doing some sort of hidden base. He's going to hide something, some sort of tech. So it's just a quick third, which is bizarre. Also, Vibe knows this is RuFF. RuFF isn't playing on a barcode or anything. So Vibe, look at this. He's coming into scout. He's wary of RuFF. He knows that RuFF is a very creative player, kind of a cheesy player, an aggressive player. He sees the 2 factories, and he sees a tech lab on one. Normally this would indicate Blue Flame Hellion, but it's RuFF, so what the hell could it mean? Vibe has no idea. All he sees is the 2 factory. And he sees that RuFF is trying to take a third. Now as RuFF takes a third and starts to make a Thor, let's talk about Vibe. Vibe, also an American from the Colorado region. He's a macro player, but he also has the ability to cheese. He's relatively fast. He creep spreads pretty well. He's versatile. I wouldn't say he's stylistically super hard one way or the other. I'd say he leans towards macro play, but he's versatile. As far as Muta versus ground army, I would say it's about even. Vibe. He's a player that kind of does it all and does it all well. He's not necessarily Korean, he couldn't compete with the best Korean pro gamers like in the GSL right now, but for the North American server, he's definitely one of the most versatile. I don't feel like Vibe has a defined weakness. If we look back in Camp RuFF, he's going full-blown mech, starting to get the starport on this reactor. This means he'll be able to pump double units. Obviously I was expecting him to go for liberators, which would help him obviously both offensively and defensively. One thing that I don't see people do very much that I think they should is use the liberator like the Viking was once used to just clear out overlords around the side of the map. If we look at RuFF here, he's doing this double Hellbat drop. This is a great move because it can kill lots of workers. Look at Vibe's creep spread. Incredible. Vibe's also getting Vipers, and he's going a ground army, Hydra Ling. RuFF has this floating barracks here. I'm pretty sure this is to make sure that Vibe doesn't kill this with Roach Hydra, make a bunch of dropper lords, and fly into his main. RuFF is planning more of these drops, as you can see. Vibe is making a greater spire. He already has Hive. He's getting an evolution chamber, so he can start ground upgrading. Vibe also has 4 corruptors on the way, which is very good because obviously he wants to make brood lords against this mech army. I thought RuFF was just going to queue these up, these medevacs, to go to these bases and just drop past the mineral line. However, I think he's just going to keep this with the army and just boost these medevacs, kind of a suicide attempt on top of these squishy hydras. I'm going to kick it down here to normal speed. Vibe has lots of Vipers. He can use Abduct, which he might use Blinding Cloud, which he does. He also uses this spell, which does AoE damage. And here comes RuFF. He's dropping those blue flame Hellions right on top of the Zerg army. Very cool move by RuFF. I haven't seen that done very much versus Zerg. Absolute annihilation as RuFF dropped these blue flame Hellions right on top of the Hydras. RuFF also had a huge upgrade advantage, and the Hellions did, the Hellbats did extra damage to light units, which is what Hydralisks are. Vibe, though, being an intelligent Zerg player, even though he loses fights, he's going to have units in place to counterattack. He clears out a whole mineral line from RuFF. Lots of RuFF's income being limited. RuFF is also pushing forward and having to deal with creep. So despite Vibe losing, this is what good macro gets you. Even though RuFF has the army advantage and he's pushing across the map, he has to take the time to kill creep. Not only that, but Vibe was smart enough to macro, make this Zergling counter, and then micro it. This base is completely shut down by RuFF. His income is significantly lower than what it should be, and Vibe has bought himself a lot of time after losing that fight. Great move by Vibe. RuFF is bringing these these medevacs filled with Hellbats over, and he's going to boost, roast this queen, loses SCVs mid-map. However, Vibe is going to lose this third. RuFF is going to fly away, probably to this fourth, I would venture to guess. And he does. Hopefully he doesn't lose these medevacs. RuFF, not really paying attention, loses 2 of them. Wow. Okay, thankfully he drops the Hellbats off for one of them. I always forget what this new ability is called. Parasitic Bomb. Nice little Hellbat drop in the main here. So RuFF is doing some multitask. I would venture to guess that this drop is why he lost this one over here. He was microing this drop. Vibe has a hefty Zerg army composed of Broodlords, Corruptors, and Vipers. It's very good against Terran mech, but RuFF plays this style a lot. He's very experienced in knowing how to balance army compositions. Mech players are very difficult to play against because oftentimes the games turn into base trades and become weird, but they play mech every game versus a Zerg player who probably only plays against mech 20% of the time. So a mech player almost always has the advantage over a Zerg, knowledge-wise. At least below the pro gamer level, I would say. But here we go, a potential engage as Vibe has Broodlords, so RuFF either has to retreat completely or commit. He can't really proc and prod against Broodlords. Some tanks on the high ground trying to kill the space of Vibe. RuFF has done significant worker damage as well, but Vibe has picked off some workers mid-map. The point I was going to make was, RuFF only has 1 starport. This means that he won't be able to deal with these Broodlords adequately. Vibe is being forced to make more drones, as RuFF almost killed this base. I would imagine this is where this medevac is going to go. Vibe is pushing forward here with these Broodlords. And these Broodlords have lots of Corruptor support and lots of Viper support. So Vibe is almost daring RuFF to beat this army only with ground units, but I think it's pretty much impossible because of Blinding Cloud. RuFF needs to split these Vikings. He needs to get a nice little pre-splitter. He's just going to be ripped apart by Blinding Cloud. Vikings coming forward and killing Broodlords. Broodlords are doing damage to RuFF's ground army. Parasitic Bomb coming down. RuFF splitting 1 away, RuFF splitting 2 away. Decent reaction time. He has the Vikings targeted onto the Broodlords, but they're absolutely wow. They just get taken for a ride there, as one could say. RuFF gets this base, which is nice, but his Vikings get destroyed. However, they did what they needed to do, and Vibe's army is going to die. Very long fight there. A lot of people used to complain StarCraft 2 had really short fights, but that one lasted quite a long time. RuFF, however, is down to 3 bases, as Vibe's last Broodlords die. And Vibe is mining a significant amount more. RuFF has the army advantage, somewhat. For a very short period of time he has the army advantage. RuFF's mission statement right now is to snipe these 2 bases before Vibe can fully get everything allocated where it needs to be. Absolute evisceration of a queen there. RuFF pushing forward. Ooh, nice abductions. Vibe pulling these Thors away, but it doesn't matter. Too much DPS from RuFF. These Viper using its abduction ability and the fungal growth from the Infestor. So Vibe was using his 2 spellcasters there. We rarely see Zergs do that. However, it's very strong. As both of the abilities synergize well together, the Viper's AoE ability and the Viper's pull ability obviously synergize well with the snare. The rest of RuFF's army is not going to be able to deal with Vibe's army without air support, and it's going to get killed mid-map. And if we go to income, remember that counterattack Vibe did over here? RuFF barely recovered from that. Remember that 4th base destruction Vibe did? Well, RuFF never recovered from that. Vibe is retaking his bases. Vibe has a backup plan. RuFF does not. RuFF's entire plan is this army. This measly army. I'm going to kick it up here a bit. RuFF is going to push out with his army and see what he can do, but he's incredibly outmatched supply-wise. Vibe has a Zerg Death Ball. And look at this. Vibe is building 4 hatcheries. This is a great move. He's not putting all of his eggs in one basket as far as bases go. He knows that RuFF is probably going to suicide onto bases. Ooh, Neural Parasite. Cool move there. Mind controlling RuFF's units. The only ones that can shoot up. Vikings notwithstanding, of course. And RuFF is forced to suicide in with units that can't even shoot up. He's trying to siege. He knows this is it. Vibe did work with these spellcaster units. He utilized both the Infestor and the Viper, which I would say is slightly abnormal and very cool to see from our Zerg from America. RuFF played a cool style too, a unique one, a tank heavy mech, but with not Turtle Raven like Avila would do so much, more of his own thing. Blue Flame Hellions are going to do decent damage to the 2nd base, but it doesn't matter. It just does not matter. All Vibe has to do is march across the map. RuFF cannot deal with him. The rest of RuFF's troops fall. Vibe is going to run forward here, claim his victory. That's those 2 spells I was talking about, Fungal Growth and Parasitic Bomb in conjunction with each other. And RuFF leaves the game. So if you enjoyed that ZVT, subscribe to my channel. You'll be notified when I make new videos, more StarCraft videos, and it's free.